try not to start right next to a corner. I try to start a little bit farther down, sort of in the middle of the side. And I'm going to sew this in a 1/4 of an inch seam that's going to come right down here and over the top. And then I'll be sewing 2 layers at the same time. Using white thread or light colored thread so that you can see the stitching. People are frequently scared of the corners, but they're really not difficult. Okay, I'm going to stop 1/4 of an inch from this edge of the bottom of my quilt. So I can feel right across here, this is where the quilt comes. I'm going to stop approximately, or as close as I can, to 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, and then I'm just going to back stitch a stitch or 2. Lift my presser foot, pull it out, and turn the quilt toward the direction I'm going to be headed. I'm going to take my binding, fold it up. Now I want the binding to be the same as the edge of my quilt. So it's going to go straight up from the edge of my quilt. My binding's going to make a straight line. Be careful that you don't get too much of an angle this way or this way. We want it to go straight up. Okay, that gives us a nice 45-degree fold right here. And I'm going to now fold my binding back down so it's lined up the direction that I'm going. We want the fold right along the raw edge of the quilt top. Slide it back underneath. And continue. Do one more corner for you again. Okay, I'm stopping 1/4 of an inch above the bottom edge of the quilt. Take a stitch or 2 back. Lift the presser foot, turn it toward the direction that I'm going. Binding goes up, so it makes a nice straight line up from the side of the quilt. Crease that fold with my fingers. Fold the binding back down. Slide it back under and you're ready to go again. Using a walking foot helps with feeding the many layers of fabric. Okay, it's my last corner. I'm going to stop 1/4 of an inch from the edge. Back up. My last corner, just like all the rest of them. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is how we're going to finish this to make a very nice beginning and ending so that you can't tell the difference. What I'm going to do is just simply lay my binding over the top, right where this fold crosses the stitching line. So right here, I'm going to fold it back and make a crease. You can see that I'm folding it right where the stitching and the folded edge of the fabric meet, right there. Now I'm going to take my binding and trim it off right where that fold was. The fun part of this, simply take it and tuck it underneath the fold, just like that. Okay, let me show you that again. Simply take my binding, lay it over the top, and tuck it in. Now I can sew right down here. looks like I cut it a hair too long. Simply go right back to my other stitching. Now, when I fold this over, you can't tell where it started and where it ended because it looks just like my other seams. All right, I'm ready to start sewing my binding down, and I don't normally turn it under and pin it. I just start. Okay, this is where I want to start sewing this open edge down. So I'm going to start by putting my needle through from the back. Can't see. This is backwards. Can you do it my way?
Sure.
Okay. I'm simply going to take a very small stitch and grab just a very little bit of my binding edge, making sure that I have matching thread. Picked the dullest needle in the drawer. So my needle goes down right opposite where it came out. So I'm coming out the top layer here. I'm going to go down into the bottom layer right next to it. Getting close to the edge, now I don't have much to hang on to. Okay, now I'm ready to take this, turn it over. I'm simply going to fold it over. My thread is already here on the bottom edge of my binding, and I'm going to continue with the same stitch. So I'm going to go into my quilt right where the thread comes out. I'm going to go into the quilt, not all the way through to show out on. I'm going right underneath the thread into the quilt, take a small stitch, and I'm coming out in only the binding. You can see where the needle's coming out of the quilt and through just the binding. Pull that one up tight. And I simply work my way around. All right, when you start getting close to a corner, I just fold it all the way across and not worry about my other side yet. Just go straight across the way that we're going, and I go right up to where my stitching is, my stitching where I sewed my binding on. And I take a stitch right there, and then I knot my thread by taking a couple of stitches in place. That way that doesn't move when I'm playing with the other side. Then I'm simply going to turn it. See how I have this 45-degree angle right here? I'm simply going to take it and fold that 45-degree angle down so that my edges meet right there in the corner. Now, sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes our seam isn't exactly perfect. We might need to trim off a little bit of quilt underneath, but you can play with it by bringing it farther over this way until you get it. Ideally, it goes all by itself like that one, but once in a while it takes a little bit of playing with. But this one isn't going to move while you manipulate the other one, the other side. Then when I'm ready to start going again, I'm simply going to take just my binding, pull it down so that it's right next to my previously stitched binding. Again, I like to take a stitch or two in place so that my binding is held at the corners even better. And I'm ready to go on down the next side. Same stitch. Into the quilt, out through just the batting.